Hi guys, in this video we're going to look into fill layers and kind of properties with PBR rendering and how it is different. So you saw me in the last video clicking on new layer here. So I was making these layer stacks. We talked about the opacity settings and things like that. Now one thing you may be wondering is, where's my paint bucket tool over here? How do I just flood fill something? And the answer is that you don't. You can't do that with a tool. You do it with a layer, which is a completely different kind of concept. We've not really looked at that. So if I make this fill layer here, what this fill layer does is it's a layer full of one color. Okay, so I've now made this fill layer here, and on the right in my properties section, what I've got is my properties, obviously. So if I click here, I can make this red, and you'll now notice that it has flooded this entire UV map here red, which is really cool. So I've now got this here, so I could use this perhaps as a base to build upon. So now let's start looking at some of these other maps here. So I've got a metal map. You'll notice that this is a grayscale value here, and that is very, very important. So if I take this slider from black to white, it will change my material over here to become more metallic. So this looks really metallic. If I put this at a sort of 50% grey here, you're going to see it looks partially metallic. Okay, so the closer we are to white, essentially the closer we are to a value of 1, which is 100%. So we're saying this is 100% metal. If we move it to the other side, we're saying it's 100% not metal. If I were to do the same with the roughness, so these two work really well together. If I put the roughness up to 100%, it is a really rough material. It is 100% rough. It is completely rough. If I take this down to black, it is 0% rough. Therefore, it is super duper shiny. So this is where my reflections are starting to come in, and you can see those happening over there. So this is looking like a kind of sort of glassy sort of material. If I take this to here, I get a more sort of plastic feeling. If I were to put this super not rough and super metallic, we get this look. So I'm getting a really shiny metal piece here, really, really sort of clean metal. So generally, using these two sliders, you can create different materials depending on what they're made out of. Okay, and materials is a really important word. You guys have been using blends and things like that in the past. Those are not PBR materials, so you would need to use a software package that supports PBR, such as Arnold. You will find out about this in the future. You guys have been making those color maps here, but we're using all of these different maps. So all of these maps plug into a PBR shader. One thing I will note is that Sketchfab supports PBR, which is great. Cool. So normal maps, you're not really going to use these. You are going to use these on your upcoming project, your creative and technical project. We will cover these in the future. They are your bump maps. However, you can use these height maps here, and the height map is again a black and white value, but this time it goes in or out. So let's make a new layer, and with the paintbrush, and what we're going to do is I'm going to turn all of these maps off, and I'm just going to paint some height information. So you'll notice that if I paint like this, nothing happens on this layer. Okay, if I move this to this side, so +1, okay, and I now paint, you can see this is now bringing out of the mesh here. So it's coming out. I could create some interesting looking effects, all in the height value here. If I go over to my display settings and I rotate my environment, you'll see how the shadows affect these and how the light kind of changes around those there. Okay, so it's all a trick of light. If I rotate around to the side, you'll see that there's no physical geometry there. It's just kind of faked, but it looks like it's coming out. We can then obviously do the same, but going in as well. So I can click here, and you can see that this now looks like it's going in. I can add like these little dents to this guy here. Okay, I could maybe use a different brush. So I have no idea what this is going to give me. Okay, so you can see I could start building a lot of kind of real texture into this here. It's got a kind of sort of jagged edge on that there. Okay, so height is the other one. Please be really careful with this one. Don't just make everything look super bumpy. Think about what they are, what the material is you're trying to create and the effect you're trying to create. Yeah, in this video we've covered fill layers and how those layers can be used to change what material it looks like, whether it's leather, metal, glass, whatever the material is, and then we've looked at the height information as well there. Okay, thank you very much, guys.